The gunshot that rang out across the New Mexico dust that morning in 1878 wasn't meant for Owen Nichols, but it changed his life forever anyway. He had been riding through Deming with nothing but his horse, his rifle, and a worn photograph of his deceased brother when the bullet whizzed past his head and shattered the window of the general store behind him. Owen threw himself from his saddle, rolling behind a water trough as chaos erupted around him. Women screamed and scattered, men reached for weapons, and somewhere in the confusion he heard her voice. "Please, someone help me." Owen peered around the trough and saw her then. A young woman with dark hair tumbling from beneath a simple bonnet, her arms wrapped protectively around a small boy who couldn't have been more than 7 years old. She was trapped in the doorway of the store, frozen with terror as 2 men on horseback fired wildly at a third man who was making his escape down the main street. The crossfire was deadly, and she was right in the middle of it. Without thinking, Owen launched himself forward, keeping low as another shot rang out. He reached the woman and the boy just as a bullet splintered the doorframe where her head had been moments before. His arms went around both of them, pulling them down and shielding them with his body as he dragged them back into the relative safety of the store. "Stay down," he ordered, his voice rough with adrenaline. The boy was crying, and the woman was breathing hard, her eyes wide with fear. Those eyes caught him off guard. They were the most striking hazel he had ever seen, filled with terror, yes, but also something else. Hope, maybe. Trust. Like she had been waiting for someone to help her. The shooting stopped as suddenly as it had started. The marshal and his deputy had arrived, and the remaining outlaws had fled. Owen stayed crouched over the woman and boy for a moment longer, making sure it was truly over before he slowly released them and sat back on his heels. "Are you hurt?" he asked, scanning them both for injuries. The woman shook her head, her hands trembling as she checked the boy over with frantic efficiency. "Thomas, are you all right? Did anything hit you?" "I'm fine, Aunt Kate," the boy managed, though his voice shook. "You saved us, mister." Owen looked at the woman, Kate, and found her staring at him with an intensity that made something in his chest tighten. "Thank you," she said softly. "I thought we were going to die." "You're safe now," he assured her, getting to his feet and offering his hand to help her up. She took it, and he felt the calluses on her palm, the roughness that spoke of hard work. When she stood, he realized she was tall for a woman, perhaps 5 feet 7 inches, with a slender build that spoke of missed meals and difficult times. "I'm Kate Jenkins," she said, releasing his hand reluctantly and smoothing down her worn calico dress. "This is my nephew, Thomas." "Owen Nichols," he replied, touching the brim of his hat. "Just passing through." Something flickered in her eyes at those words, disappointment maybe, but she hid it quickly behind a polite smile. "Well, Mr. Nichols, I'm in your debt. If there's anything I can do to repay you, please let me know." Before he could respond, the marshal stepped into the store, a grizzled man in his 50s with a silver star pinned to his vest. "Everyone all right in here? Miss Jenkins, you hurt?" "We're fine, Marshal Davis, thanks to this gentleman," Kate said, gesturing to Owen. The marshal looked Owen up and down with the assessing gaze of a lawman. "Obliged to you, stranger. Those men have been causing trouble for weeks now. The Murphy gang, out of Texas, thought they could rob our bank in broad daylight." "They didn't succeed?" Owen asked. "Not this time," Marshal Davis said with satisfaction. "Killed one, captured another. The third got away, but he won't get far." He turned back to Kate. "You best get Thomas home. His mother will be worried sick." Kate nodded, taking the boy's hand. She looked back at Owen, and again he saw that strange, searching look in her eyes. "Thank you again, Mr. Nichols. I hope our paths cross again before you leave town." "Maybe they will," Owen heard himself say, though he had planned to be gone by nightfall. He watched her leave, the boy clinging to her skirts, and felt an unfamiliar pull in his chest. He had been drifting for 2 years now, ever since his brother had been killed in a gunfight in Colorado. Owen had spent those years tracking the man responsible, finally finding him and bringing him to justice 3 months ago. Since then, he had been wandering, purposeless, moving from town to town with no destination in mind. "She's a good woman," Marshall Davis said, following Owen's gaze. "Been through a hard time, her and that boy. Lost her sister and brother-in-law to cholera last year. She's been raising Thomas alone, trying to keep their ranch going, but it's tough for a woman on her own." "No husband?" Owen asked, trying to sound casual. "Never married," the marshal said. "Always wondered why. She's pretty enough, and there's plenty of men who would take her on, even with the boy, but she's never shown interest in any of them." He clapped Owen on the shoulder. "Come on, let me buy you a drink." "Least we can do for a man who puts himself in harm's way to protect our citizens." Owen followed the marshal to the saloon, but his mind stayed on Kate Jenkins and her hopeful eyes. The whiskey was cheap and burned going down, but Owen barely tasted it. Marshall Davis was regaling him with stories about the Murphy gang's various crimes, but Owen found his attention wandering to the window, watching the people of Deming go about their business. It was a growing town, benefiting from the railroad that had come through a few years back. There were new buildings going up, signs of prosperity and progress. "Where you headed, Nichols?" the marshal asked, pouring them both another shot. "Nowhere in particular," Owen admitted. "Been drifting since I finished some business up north." "Looking for work," Owen considered. He still had some money left from his last job driving cattle, but it wouldn't last forever. "Depends on what kind of work." "Jenkins' ranch could use a hand," the marshal said, a little too casually. "Kate's been trying to manage it alone, but it's too much. She's got about 100 head of cattle, some horses, and land that needs working. Her brother-in-law was a good rancher, but since he passed, things have been falling apart. She's too proud to ask for help, but she needs it." Owen swirled the whiskey in his glass, watching the amber liquid catch the light. "I'm not much of a rancher. But you know cattle, don't you? I can tell a cattleman by the way he sits his horse, and you've got the look of someone who knows hard work." It was true. Owen had grown up on a ranch in Texas, before his father lost it to debt and his family scattered. He and his brother had worked various ranches and cattle drives for years before his brother's death. He knew cattle and horses, knew the land and how to work it. "Why are you so interested in helping her?" Owen asked directly. Marshall Davis sighed. "Because this town owes her family. Her brother-in-law, Samuel, helped build this place. He was on the town council, helped bring the railroad through, donated land for the church. When he and his wife died, Kate could have sold the ranch and moved back east where she came from. But she stayed, for Thomas's sake, trying to honor Samuel's memory. The least we can do is help her keep the place going." Owen drained his glass and set it down with a decisive thunk. "I'll think about it." But he was already making up his mind. There was something about Kate Jenkins that had gotten under his skin in the brief moments he had known her. The way she had looked at him, like she had been waiting for him specifically. The way she had protected that boy with her own body, fearless in the face of danger. The way her voice had shaken when she thanked him, raw and genuine. He left the saloon and walked through Deming, getting a feel for the town. It was a decent place, he decided. Not too rough, not too tame. The people seemed honest and hardworking. He found himself at the edge of town, looking out at the New Mexico landscape, all red earth and scrub brush and distant mountains. The sky was that endless blue that made a man feel small and significant all at once. He thought about his brother, about the promise he had made at his grave to live a good life, to stop drifting and find a place to belong. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was what he had been searching for without knowing it. The next morning, Owen rode out to the Jenkins ranch. It wasn't hard to find. The marshal had given him directions over breakfast. It was about 3 miles from town, a modest spread with a house that had seen better days, a barn that needed repairs, and corrals that were barely standing. But the land itself was good, with a creek running through it and decent grazing. He saw Kate before she saw him. She was in the corral with a horse, a big bay gelding that was clearly giving her trouble. The horse was tossing its head and dancing sideways, and Kate was holding onto the lead rope with grim determination, trying to get close enough to put a saddle on its back. Owen dismounted and approached the corral slowly, not wanting to spook the horse further. "Need some help?" Kate's head whipped around and he saw surprise flash across her face, followed by that same hope he had seen yesterday. "Mr. Nichols, I didn't expect to see you again. Heard you might need a ranch hand," he said, resting his arms on the top rail of the corral. "Thought I might offer my services." She stared at him for a long moment, and he could see her wrestling with pride and practicality. The horse chose that moment to rear, nearly yanking her off her feet. Owen was over the fence in an instant, catching the lead rope and moving to the horse's head with calm efficiency. "Easy now," he murmured, his voice low and soothing. The horse's ears flicked toward him, and Owen kept talking nonsense words that meant nothing except in their tone. Gradually, the horse settled, blowing hard through its nose but standing still. Kate was staring at him with wonder. "How did you do that? I've been trying for an hour." "Horses respond to confidence," Owen said simply. "This one's scared, not mean. Probably hasn't been handled much since your brother-in-law passed." "No," Kate admitted. "I've been focused on keeping the cattle fed and the ranch running. The horses have been mostly neglected." She brushed a strand of hair from her face, leaving a smudge of dirt on her cheek. "I can't afford to pay much. Room and board is enough for now," Owen said, "and a small wage when you can manage it." "The bunkhouse is in decent shape," Kate said slowly, still watching him with those searching eyes. "There's a stove and a bed. It's not much." "It's more than I've had in a while," Owen assured her. "I've been sleeping rough for months." Kate made her decision. "All right. I could use the help, that's for certain. When can you start? Right now, if you like." A smile broke across her face, transforming it from merely pretty to genuinely beautiful. "Then let me show you around properly." The ranch was in worse shape than he had initially thought. The house needed a new roof. Several sections of fence were down. The barn was missing boards and the water pump was barely functional. But it wasn't beyond saving. With hard work and time, it could be a good operation again. Kate showed him everything with a mixture of pride and embarrassment, clearly aware of how run-down things had become but still loving the place. Thomas trailed after them, watching Owen with curious eyes. "My pa built that barn," the boy said at one point. "Ma always said it was the finest barn in the county." "It's a good barn," Owen agreed. "Just needs some repairs. Maybe you can help me fix it up." Thomas's face lit up. "Really? You'd let me help if your aunt says it's all right." Kate looked between them, and Owen saw something soft and sad in her expression. Thomas would like that. He misses having a man around to teach him things. They ended the tour at the bunkhouse, which was indeed in better shape than the rest of the ranch. It was small but clean, with a pot-belly stove, a narrow bed, a table and chair, and pegs on the wall for hanging clothes. There was even a small bookshelf, still holding a few worn volumes. "The previous hands left those," Kate said, nodding at the books. "You're welcome to them if you raid." "I do," Owen said, already feeling like this place could be home. "Thank you, Miss Jenkins. Call me Kate," she said. "We don't stand on formality out here." She hesitated in the doorway. "Why did you really come, Mr. Nichols? The marshal said you were just passing through." Owen met her eyes. "I was, but I've been drifting for a long time and I'm tired of it. This seemed like a good place to stop. And yesterday, saving us in town, that didn't scare you off, why would it?" Kate smiled sadly. "Trouble seems to follow me. My husband-to-be died 3 days before our wedding, shot in a robbery 5 years ago. My sister and her husband died of cholera. The ranch is failing. Men in town say I'm cursed." "You believe that?" "No," she said firmly. "I believe in hard work and faith. I believe things will get better." She looked at him with those hopeful eyes again. "I believed someone would come along to help us, and here you are." Owen felt something shift in his chest, some piece of himself that had been loose since his brother's death settling back into place. "Here I am," he agreed softly. Kate left him to settle in, and Owen unpacked his few belongings. A change of clothes, some ammunition, his brother's watch, the photograph. He set the picture on the small shelf and looked at his brother's face, frozen forever at 25 years old. "Think I might stay here a while, James," he said quietly. "Think this might be the place you wanted me to find." The work started immediately. Owen spent the first few days assessing everything that needed doing and prioritizing. The fences came first. Without good fences, the cattle would wander. He rode the property lines, finding breaks and weak spots, marking them in his mind. Thomas became his shadow, eager to learn and help. The boy was smart and willing, and Owen found himself enjoying the role of teacher. They worked together on the fences, Owen showing Thomas how to string wire properly and set posts deep. Kate brought them lunch in the fields, and they would sit together in whatever shade they could find, eating sandwiches and drinking water from canteens. Owen learned about her life in these casual conversations. She had come from Pennsylvania originally, met Samuel's brother David at a church social when he was back east visiting family. They had courted through letters for a year before he proposed, and she had come west to marry him. "I loved him," Kate said simply, staring out at the horizon. Not in the wild, passionate way books describe, but in a steady, sure way. "He was kind and good, and I thought we would have a happy life together." "What happened?" Owen asked, though the marshal had already told him. "He was working as a bank clerk, saving money for us to buy a house. 3 men robbed the bank and David tried to stop them. They shot him." Her voice was matter of fact, but her hands trembled slightly. "I stayed in Deming anyway. Samuel and his wife Rebecca had become like family to me. When they offered me a home here on the ranch, I accepted. I helped Rebecca with the house and Thomas, and I tried to be useful. And then they died," Owen said gently. "Cholera swept through 2 summers ago. It took them in a matter of days. Thomas survived it, but he lost his parents." Kate's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. "He's all I have now. I made a promise to Rebecca that I would raise him, keep him safe, make sure he grows up to be a good man like his father." "You're doing a fine job," Owen said. "He's a good boy." "He needs a father figure," Kate said, glancing at Owen. "He needs someone to teach him how to be a man. I can only do so much." Owen felt the weight of her words, the implied question in them. "I'll teach him what I can while I'm here." "While you're here," Kate repeated, and he heard the disappointment in her voice. "You're still planning to leave eventually." "I don't know what I'm planning," Owen admitted. "I'm just taking things one day at a time," Kate nodded slowly. "That's fair. I suppose I can't ask for more than that." But her eyes said she wanted to. Her eyes said she wanted him to promise to stay forever, to be the man Thomas needed, to be the partner she needed. Owen looked away, not ready to make promises he wasn't sure he could keep. The days turned into weeks, and Owen fell into a rhythm at the ranch. He worked from dawn until dusk, repairing fences, fixing the barn, tending the cattle, breaking horses. His body ached at night, but it was a good ache, the ache of honest labor. He slept deeply and dreamlessly, something he hadn't done since before his brother died. Kate cooked meals for all of them, insisting Owen eat at the house rather than cooking alone in the bunkhouse. The three of them would sit around the kitchen table, and it felt like family. Thomas would chatter about his day, about what Owen had taught him, about his plans for when he grew up. Kate would listen with a smile, occasionally catching Owen's eye across the table in a moment of shared amusement or tenderness. Owen found himself looking forward to those meals, to the warmth of the kitchen and the sound of Kate's laughter. She was funny in a dry, understated way, and smart, with opinions about everything from politics to poetry. She kept those books in the house well read, and sometimes in the evenings after Thomas went to bed, she would sit on the porch and read while Owen mended tack or cleaned his rifle nearby. "Do you miss Pennsylvania?" Owen asked her one evening as the sun set in a blaze of orange and red. Kate looked up from her book, considering. "Sometimes. I miss my parents, though we were never close. I miss the green, the way everything grows so easily there. But I don't miss the cold winters or the narrow-mindedness of small-town life. Here, there's space to breathe, space to be yourself." "Who are you, Kate Jenkins?" Owen asked, surprising himself with the question. She met his eyes, and in the fading light, her face was soft and open. "I'm a woman who refuses to give up. A woman who believes in tomorrow even when today is hard. A woman who loves this land and this life despite everything." She paused. "I'm a woman who's been waiting." "Waiting for what?" "I don't know," she said softly. "I just always felt like my real life hadn't started yet, like I was in a pause and someday something would happen to set everything in motion again." She looked away, embarrassed. "That sounds foolish." "No," Owen said. "It doesn't." They sat in comfortable silence after that, listening to the sounds of the night settling in around them. Owen felt something building between them, something tender and fragile and terrifying. He wasn't sure he was ready for it, but he couldn't seem to stop it either. The Murphy gang struck again on a Saturday night, hitting the bank in a town 15 miles south of Deming. They killed a clerk and made off with $3,000. Marshal Davis rode out to the ranch the next day to warn Owen and Kate. "They're getting bolder," the marshal said grimly, accepting a cup of coffee from Kate, "and meaner. That clerk had a wife and 3 children." "Do you think they'll come to Deming again?" Kate asked, her face pale. "I think they might. They've got a taste for our area now, and they know our bank does good business." The marshal looked at Owen. "You any good with that rifle?" "Good enough," Owen said. "I'm deputizing men just in case. Would you be willing?" Owen glanced at Kate, who was watching him with worried eyes. "I'll do what needs doing." "I don't want you in danger," Kate said after the marshal left. "You've already risked yourself once for us." "And I'd do it again," Owen said. "Kate, there are bad men in this world. Someone has to stand against them." "I know," she whispered. "I just don't want to lose anyone else." Owen reached out without thinking and took her hand. Her fingers curled around his, holding tight. "You won't lose me," he said, and meant it as a promise. That night, Owen couldn't sleep. He lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Kate and Thomas and the strange sense of belonging he felt here. He had been fighting it, keeping himself emotionally distant, but tonight had changed something. When Kate had said she didn't want to lose him, when she had held his hand with such desperate hope, he had realized the truth. He was falling in love with her. Maybe he had been since the moment he first saw her, trapped in that doorway with bullets flying around her, protecting Thomas with her own body. Maybe it was the way she smiled when she was tired, or the way she sang softly while she cooked, or the way she looked at him like he was someone worth knowing. Maybe it was all of it, everything about her, the strength and the softness and the stubborn hope. Owen got up and walked to the bunkhouse door, looking out at the ranch. The house was dark, everyone asleep. He could build a life here, he thought. He could marry Kate, raise Thomas, work this land. He could be happy. But did he deserve it? He had spent 2 years consumed with vengeance, tracking his brother's killer across 3 territories. He had become hard during that time, cold and focused on nothing but revenge. When he finally found the man and watched him hang, Owen had felt hollow rather than satisfied. What if that hollowness had damaged something essential in him? What if he couldn't be the man Kate and Thomas needed? The next weeks were tense as the town waited for the Murphy gang to strike again. Marshal Davis organized patrols, and Owen took his turn riding through Deming at night, watching for trouble. But the gang seemed to have moved on, hitting banks in other towns, always staying one step ahead of the law. During this time, Owen and Kate grew closer. It was in small things. The brush of hands when she passed him a plate, the way she sought him out when she needed advice, the lingering looks they exchanged when Thomas wasn't watching. Owen started finding excuses to be near the house, fixing things that didn't really need fixing, just to be close to her. One afternoon, he was repairing the porch steps when Kate came out with lemonade. She sat beside him, watching him work. "Owen," she said, and the sound of his name in her voice made his heart race. "Can I ask you something personal, of course? Why were you drifting? The marshal said you finished some business up north, but what kind of business keeps a man wandering for 2 years?" Owen set down his hammer and took the lemonade, using the time to gather his thoughts. "My brother was killed in Colorado, shot in a gunfight by a man named Charlie Reeves. I spent 2 years tracking Reeves, and I finally found him in Denver 3 months ago. I brought him to the law and he hanged for his crimes." Kate's hand found his arm, gentle and comforting. "I'm so sorry. Losing someone you love is the hardest thing in the world. After he died, I didn't know what to do with myself," Owen continued. "James and we did everything together. Worked together, traveled together, planned our futures together. When he was gone, I felt lost. The only thing that made sense was finding his killer, and once justice was served, I was still lost, maybe more lost than before." "And now?" Kate asked softly. Owen turned to look at her, really look at her. The sun caught the gold in her hair, and her eyes were warm with compassion and something deeper. "Now, I think I might have found what I was looking for." Kate's breath caught, and for a moment they just stared at each other, the air between them charged with possibility. Then Thomas's voice called from inside, asking for help with his arithmetic, and the moment broke. Kate stood quickly, her cheeks flushed. "I should go help him." "Kate, wait," Owen said, standing as well. "I need you to know something. I'm not drifting anymore. I'm staying. As long as you'll have me, I'm staying." The smile that broke across her face was like the sun coming up. "Really, really," he confirmed. She threw her arms around him then, hugging him tight. Owen held her, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the rightness of her in his arms. When she pulled back, there were tears in her eyes. "I believed you would come someday," she whispered. "I've been waiting for you." "I'm here," Owen said, cupping her face gently. "I'm here and I'm not going anywhere." He wanted to kiss her then, wanted it with an intensity that surprised him. But Thomas called again and Kate stepped back with a regretful smile. "Tonight," she said, "after Thomas is asleep. Meet me on the porch." Owen nodded, not trusting his voice. He watched her go inside, then sat back down on the steps, his hands shaking slightly. He was really doing this. He was committing to this place, to this woman, to this life. And it felt right. It felt like coming home. The hours until nightfall were the longest of Owen's life. He finished the porch steps, then found other work to keep himself busy. He mucked out stalls, checked on the cattle, repaired a broken window in the barn. Anything to pass the time and burn off the nervous energy coursing through him. Finally, after supper and after Kate had tucked Thomas into bed with a story, Owen made his way to the porch. Kate was already there, sitting on the steps he had fixed that afternoon. She had changed into a dress he hadn't seen before, simple but pretty, and had let her hair down from its usual practical bun. "Hi," she said, suddenly shy. "Hi," Owen replied, sitting beside her. For a moment neither of them spoke, just sat together in the comfortable darkness. "I need to tell you something," Kate said eventually. "About my fiancé, David, and about what happened after he died." "You don't have to," Owen started, but she shook her head. "I want to. I need you to understand." She took a breath. "I love David, but I didn't love him the way I should have. I agreed to marry him because he was kind, and because it was what I was supposed to do. A woman needs a husband, or so I was taught. After he died, I felt guilty because along with the grief, there was relief. Relief that I wouldn't have to spend my life with someone I cared for but didn't truly love." She looked at Owen, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "I promised myself then that if I ever considered marriage again, it would only be for real love. The kind that makes your heart race and your hands shake. The kind that feels like coming home and setting out on an adventure all at once. I've been waiting for that, Owen. I've been waiting for you." Owen reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "I've been alone for a long time, Kate. After James died, I thought I would always be alone. I thought maybe I deserved to be for not protecting him better. But then I came here and I met you and everything changed." "How?" she asked. "You gave me a reason to stay still. A reason to build instead of wander, a reason to hope." He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "I'm falling in love with you, Kate Jenkins. Maybe I already have fallen, I don't know. I've never felt like this before." Kate made a small sound, half laugh and half sob. "I love you too. I think I loved you from the moment you threw yourself in front of those bullets for Thomas and me. I love your strength and your kindness. I love how patient you are with Thomas. I love how hard you work and how you never complain. I love everything about you." Owen couldn't wait anymore. He leaned in and kissed her, soft and tentative at first, then deeper as she responded. Her arms went around his neck and his hands found her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss was everything a first kiss should be, sweet and passionate and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Owen rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me," he said. "I know it's fast, but I'm sure. Marry me, Kate." "Yes," she breathed without hesitation. "Yes, Owen, I'll marry you." They kissed again, celebrating their engagement under the New Mexico stars. When they finally went inside hand in hand, Owen felt like the luckiest man alive. He had found his home, his purpose, his love. After 2 years of darkness, he had finally found the light. The next morning, Owen woke to Thomas jumping on his bunk, shouting with joy. "Aunt Kate said you're going to marry us. You're going to be my uncle," Owen laughed, catching the excited boy and ruffling his hair. "That's right, Thomas. How do you feel about that?" "I think it's the best thing ever," Thomas declared. "Can I call you Uncle Owen now, or should I wait until after the wedding?" "You can call me whatever you like," Owen said, his heart full. Kate appeared in the doorway, smiling at the sight of them. "Thomas, let Owen get dressed. Breakfast is almost ready." Thomas scrambled off the bed, pausing at the door. "I'm glad you came, Uncle Owen. I prayed for someone to help Aunt Kate and God sent you." After he ran off, Kate came into the bunkhouse properly, shutting the door behind her. "I told him this morning. He's thrilled." "So am I," Owen said, pulling her close for a quick kiss. "When should we do this?" "The wedding, soon," Kate said. "I don't want to wait. We've both waited long enough, don't you think?" "Next month," Owen suggested. "That will give us time to fix up the house properly, get things ready." Kate nodded, her eyes shining with happiness. "Next month. I can't wait to be your wife, Owen Nichols." The news spread through Deming quickly, and the town's reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Marshal Davis clapped Owen on the back and said he had known from the start they were meant for each other. The women of the church immediately began planning a wedding celebration, insisting on making a cake and decorating the church with flowers. Even the men who had supposedly said Kate was cursed seemed happy for her, tipping their hats and offering congratulations. Owen threw himself into preparing the ranch for his new role as husband and father. He worked harder than ever, determined to make the place worthy of Kate and Thomas. He replaced the entire roof on the house, working late into the evenings with Thomas helping where he could. He rebuilt the corral fences and repaired the barn until it was sound and solid again. He also started building a new chicken coop, bigger and better than the old one, so Kate could expand her flock. She loved her chickens, he had learned, naming each one and talking to them while she collected eggs. He wanted to give her that small happiness and more besides. In the evenings after work was done, Owen and Kate would sit together on the newly repaired porch, planning their future. They talked about expanding the herd, maybe getting some pigs, planting a bigger garden. They talked about children of their own someday, siblings for Thomas. They talked about growing old together on this land they both loved. "I want you to know something," Kate said one night, leaning against his shoulder. "This ranch is half yours now. I'm not marrying you so you'll be my hired hand. We're partners in everything." "Kate, I can't accept that," Owen protested. "This was Samuel and Rebecca's land, and they would want me to be happy and secure. They would approve of you, Owen. Samuel always said a good ranch needed a good man to run it. You're that man." She looked up at him seriously. "Besides, when we marry, what's mine becomes yours anyway, according to the law. I'd rather we go into this as equal partners." "Then let me contribute something," Owen said. "I have money saved, about $800. We can use it to buy more cattle, improve the stock." Kate's eyes widened. "That's a lot of money." "I've been saving for years, not spending much. It might as well go toward our future." They sealed the agreement with a kiss, and Owen felt another piece of his life fall into place. He wasn't just finding a wife. He was finding a true partner, someone who saw him as an equal and wanted to build something together. 3 weeks before the wedding, the Murphy gang returned to the area. They hit a stagecoach carrying payroll for a mining operation, killing the driver and guard and making off with over $5,000. The robbery happened only 10 miles from Deming, close enough to put everyone on edge. Marshal Davis called a meeting at the saloon, gathering all the able-bodied men in town. Owen attended, along with about 30 other men, all grim-faced and ready to take action. "The territorial marshal is sending men, but they won't be here for days," Davis explained. "In the meantime, we need to protect this town. The Murphy gang knows we have money in our bank and they're getting desperate. I expect they'll hit us soon." "We should take the fight to them," someone called out. "Hunt them down before they can strike." "We don't know where they are," the marshal replied. "They keep moving, never staying in one place. Our best bet is to be ready when they come here." Owen listened as the marshal laid out plans for guards and patrols, for securing the bank and protecting the citizens. When he got back to the ranch, Kate was waiting up for him, worry clear on her face. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Bad enough," Owen admitted. "But we'll be ready. The marshal knows what he's doing." "I don't want you involved," Kate said, gripping his hands. "Please, Owen. Let someone else do this. We're getting married in 3 weeks. I can't lose you." "You won't lose me," Owen promised. "But I can't hide while other men risk themselves. This is my town now too, Kate. These are my people to protect. That includes you and Thomas." Kate's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. "I know, I just wish things could be different." "So do I," Owen said, pulling her into his arms. "So do I." The attack came 2 days later on a Tuesday morning. Owen was in town getting supplies when he heard the thunder of hoofbeats and the crack of gunfire. The Murphy gang came in fast and hard, 6 men on horseback, firing into the air and causing chaos. Owen dropped the supplies and ran toward the bank, where the marshal and several deputies were already taking up defensive positions. He saw one of the outlaws raising his rifle toward a woman with a baby, and Owen fired without thinking, his bullet catching the man in the shoulder and knocking him from his saddle. The battle was fierce and loud, filling the street with smoke and screaming. Owen took cover behind a water trough, the same one he had hidden behind the day he met Kate, and fired at the outlaws with calm precision. He saw the marshal go down with a bullet in the leg, saw a deputy take a shot to the arm. One of the outlaws broke away from the group and rode straight at Owen, gun blazing. Owen stood his ground, taking careful aim, and fired. The outlaw fell, dead before he hit the ground. Another rider came at him from the side, and Owen spun, firing again, hitting the man's horse. The animal went down, throwing its rider, who didn't get up. The remaining outlaws realized they were outnumbered and outgunned. They turned to flee, but a group of armed citizens had blocked their escape route. Trapped, they surrendered, throwing down their weapons and raising their hands. It was over in less than 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. Owen's ears rang from the gunfire and his hands shook with adrenaline. He helped the marshal to his feet, supporting the older man as they surveyed the scene. 2 outlaws dead, 4 captured, including the leader of the Murphy gang. Several citizens wounded, but none seriously. It could have been much worse. "You saved a lot of lives today, Nichols," the marshal said, gripping Owen's shoulder. "You stood when others would have run." "I did what needed doing," Owen replied, thinking only of getting back to Kate and Thomas, of making sure they knew he was safe. But Kate was already there, pushing through the crowd with Thomas at her side. She saw Owen and broke into a run, throwing herself into his arms with such force he staggered back. "I heard the shooting," she gasped, tears streaming down her face. "I was so scared, I thought I had lost you." "I'm fine," Owen assured her, holding her tight. "I'm not hurt, Kate, I'm fine." She pulled back to look at him, her hands running over his chest and arms as if checking for wounds. "You're sure? You're really all right, I promise," he said, kissing her forehead. "It's over now, the Murphy gang is finished." Thomas was staring at Owen with wide eyes, a mixture of fear and awe on his young face. Owen crouched down to his level. "You all right, Thomas? You're a hero," Thomas breathed. "You saved the whole town." "I'm not a hero," Owen said firmly. "I'm just a man who protected what's his." "That's what men do. They stand up for their families and their homes." The boy threw his arms around Owen's neck, hugging him tight. Over his head, Owen met Kate's eyes and saw such love and gratitude there that his throat tightened with emotion. The wedding couldn't come fast enough after that. The close call had reminded them both how fragile life was, how important it was to seize happiness while they could. Kate moved the wedding up by a week, and the town rallied to make it happen. The night before the wedding, Owen stood in the bunkhouse he would be leaving tomorrow, looking around at what had been his home for the past 3 months. Tomorrow, he would move into the house, into the room he and Kate would share as husband and wife. Tomorrow, he would become a married man, a father figure to Thomas, a rancher with roots and purpose. There was a knock on the door, and he opened it to find Marshal Davis standing there with a bottle of whiskey. "Thought you might want some company on your last night as a bachelor," the marshal said with a grin. They sat on the steps of the bunkhouse, passing the bottle between them and talking about everything and nothing. The marshal told stories about his own marriage, 40 years strong, and offered advice that Owen took to heart. "Love her every day," the marshal said seriously. "Even when you're tired or angry or life is hard, especially then, choose to love her and choose to show it. That's what makes a marriage last." "I will," Owen promised, "and be patient with the boy. He's been through a lot, losing his parents. He might test you, push boundaries, try to figure out where he stands. Just be steady and constant and he'll come around." "I care about Thomas like he's my own," Owen said. "I'll do right by him." The marshal clapped him on the back. "I know you will. You're a good man, Nichols. Kate's lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one," Owen said, meaning it with every fiber of his being. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, the New Mexico sky that endless blue that promised good things. Owen dressed in his best clothes, a new shirt and pants Kate had helped him pick out in town, and made his way to the church. The small building was packed with people, the entire town having turned out to celebrate. Flowers decorated every surface, and someone had brought in chairs from the schoolhouse to accommodate the crowd. Owen stood at the front with the preacher, his palms sweating and his heart racing. Then the doors opened, and Kate appeared, and every nervous thought fled from Owen's mind. She was beautiful. She wore a simple dress of cream-colored cotton, with lace at the collar and cuffs, and she had wildflowers woven into her hair. But it wasn't the dress or the flowers that took his breath away. It was the joy on her face, the absolute radiance of her happiness, the way her eyes found his and held. Thomas walked beside her, giving her away since she had no father present, and the boy was grinning from ear to ear. They reached the front, and Thomas placed Kate's hand in Owen's with exaggerated solemnity. "Take care of her, Uncle Owen," Thomas whispered, just loud enough for Owen to hear. "I will," Owen whispered back. "I promise." The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising love and faithfulness, partnership and support for all the days of their lives. Owen's voice shook when he said his vows, overcome with emotion, and Kate's eyes sparkled with tears throughout. When the preacher finally said, "You may kiss your bride," Owen cupped Kate's face gently and kissed her with all the love in his heart. The church erupted in applause and cheers, and when they broke apart, both of them were laughing through tears. They walked back down the aisle hand in hand, husband and wife, into a future bright with promise. The celebration afterward was everything a wedding should be. There was food and music and dancing in the street. The ladies of the church had outdone themselves with the cake, a 3-layer creation with sugar frosting. Owen and Kate cut it together, feeding each other bites while the crowd laughed and whistled. Owen danced with his bride, holding her close as someone played a fiddle and others clapped along. Kate fit perfectly in his arms, her head resting on his shoulder, and Owen felt a contentment so deep it was almost painful. "Happy," he murmured into her hair. "More than I ever thought possible," Kate replied, looking up at him with those hopeful eyes that were now filled with certainty and joy. "I have everything I ever wanted." "So do I," Owen said, and kissed her again, not caring that half the town was watching. They danced with others too. Owen danced with Thomas, making the boy laugh by letting him stand on his feet and be swung around. Kate danced with Marshall Davis and several other townsmen. As the sun set and lanterns were lit, the celebration continued, everyone reluctant to let the joyful day end. Finally, as the stars came out, Owen and Kate slipped away, walking back to the ranch hand in hand. Thomas had been invited to spend the night with a friend from school, giving the newlyweds privacy. The house was quiet when they entered, lit only by the moonlight streaming through the windows. "Mrs. Nichols," Owen said, testing out the name. "How does that sound?" "Perfect," Kate replied, stepping into his arms. "Everything about this is perfect." They kissed in the moonlight, and Owen picked her up, carrying her toward the bedroom they would now share. This was his life now. This woman, this home, this love. He had been drifting for so long, lost and alone. But Kate had been waiting, believing someone would come, and he had found his way to her. They made love for the first time that night, tender and passionate, learning each other's bodies with wonder and care. Afterward, lying tangled together in the darkness, Kate traced patterns on Owen's chest. "I meant what I said in my vows," she whispered, "about waiting for you. Even when it seemed foolish, even when people told me to settle for whoever was available, I waited. I believed you would come someday." "I'm glad you did," Owen said, kissing the top of her head. "I'm glad you didn't give up hope. Promise me something," Kate said, propping herself up to look at him. "Promise me we'll always be honest with each other, even when it's hard, even when we're scared or angry or hurt. Promise me we'll talk through things." "I promise," Owen said seriously. "I've seen what happens when people keep things inside. My parents barely spoke to each other toward the end, and it killed whatever love they had. I won't let that happen to us." "Good," Kate said, settling back against his chest. "Because I love you too much to lose you to silence and misunderstanding." They lay together in the comfortable darkness, listening to the sounds of the ranch at night, and Owen felt a peace he had never known before. This was home. This was where he belonged. The first months of marriage were an adjustment, learning to live together as partners rather than employer and employee. They had their first argument about money, when Owen wanted to buy a new bull to improve the herd, and Kate worried about spending too much. They resolved it by sitting down together and going over the finances carefully, ultimately deciding the investment was worth it. They argued about Thomas too, when Owen wanted to discipline the boy for shirking his chores, and Kate felt he was being too harsh. That argument took longer to resolve, both of them having strong feelings about how to raise the child. But they talked it through, late into the night, and reached a compromise that satisfied them both. Through it all, their love deepened. Owen found himself falling more in love with Kate every day, discovering new things to admire about her. The way she sang while she worked, her voice clear and true. The way she was generous with neighbors, always ready to help someone in need. The way she loved Thomas with fierce protectiveness, determined to give him the best life possible. Kate, for her part, loved Owen's steadiness, his calm in the face of crisis, his gentle patience with Thomas, his strong hands and stronger heart. She loved how he kissed her goodbye every morning and hello every evening, how he always sought her opinion on ranch decisions, how he held her at night like she was something precious. 6 months after the wedding, Kate came to Owen with news. They were in the barn where Owen was working on fixing a saddle and Kate was feeding the horses their evening grain. "Owen," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I need to tell you something." He looked up immediately, hearing the emotion in her voice. "What is it? Are you all right?" "I'm fine," she said, a smile breaking across her face. "Better than fine. I'm pregnant, Owen. We're going to have a baby." Owen dropped the saddle, crossing to her in 3 long strides and sweeping her into his arms. "Are you sure? The doctor confirmed it this morning." "I'm about 2 months along. The baby should come in late spring." Kate laughed, joy bubbling out of her. "We're going to be parents." Owen kissed her long and deep, his heart so full he thought it might burst. A baby. Their baby. A child created from their love, a new life to nurture and protect and raise. "How do you feel?" he asked, pulling back to look at her carefully. "Are you sick? Do you need to rest?" "I'm fine," Kate assured him. "A little tired in the mornings, but otherwise perfectly healthy." "Doctor Morrison says everything looks good." "We need to tell Thomas," Owen said, his mind already racing ahead. He'll be excited to have a brother or sister. They told Thomas that night at supper, and as predicted, the boy was thrilled. "Can it be a brother?" he asked eagerly. "I've always wanted a brother. We could teach him to ride and shoot and everything." "It might be a girl," Kate warned, but she was smiling. "That's fine too," Thomas said generously. "I'll protect her from bullies and mean boys." Owen reached across the table and ruffled the boy's hair. "You're going to be a great big brother, Thomas." That night, lying in bed with Kate's head on his shoulder, Owen felt a profound gratitude for his life. A year ago, he had been alone and purposeless, drifting from town to town with nothing but ghosts for company. Now he had a wife, a son, and a baby on the way. He had a home and work he believed in. He had love. "Thank you," he whispered into the darkness. Kate stirred against him. "For what?" "For waiting, for believing, for choosing me." "Thank you for coming," Kate replied, her hand finding his and holding tight. "Thank you for seeing me, for loving me, for giving me this life." They fell asleep like that, hands clasped, hearts entwined, ready to face whatever the future held together. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though Kate had some difficult days of nausea and exhaustion. Owen tried to take as much work off her shoulders as he could, doing extra chores around the house and insisting she rest when she needed to. Thomas helped too, eager to be useful and excited about the coming baby. As winter set in, they prepared for the arrival of the new addition. Owen built a cradle from scratch, carefully sanding and staining the wood until it was smooth and beautiful. Kate sewed tiny clothes and blankets, her hands working steadily even as her belly grew round. The ranch prospered under their joint management. The new bull Owen had bought proved to be a good investment, and the spring calves were strong and healthy. They added more chickens and a few pigs, diversifying their operation. Owen even started breaking horses to sell, capitalizing on his skill with difficult animals. Financially, they were more secure than Kate had been in years. They were able to pay off some old debts and even put money aside for the future. Owen felt proud of what they were building together, this life they were creating through hard work and love. In March, as Kate entered her final month of pregnancy, a letter arrived from Pennsylvania. It was from Kate's mother, whom she hadn't heard from in over a year. Kate read it at the kitchen table, her face going through a series of emotions: surprise and hurt and anger and finally resignation. "What does she say?" Owen asked gently, sitting beside her. "She heard about the wedding from someone. She's angry I didn't tell her, angry I married a man she's never met. She says I'm throwing my life away on this wild frontier, that I should come home where I belong." Kate set the letter down with a sigh. "She's never understood me." "Do you want to write back?" Owen asked. Kate considered. "Maybe eventually, but not now. She made it clear years ago that she disapproved of my choices. I don't need that negativity in my life, especially not now when everything is so good." Owen pulled her close, careful of her swollen belly. "You have a family here, Thomas and me and the baby coming. We're your family now." "I know," Kate said, leaning into him, "and I'm grateful for that every day." The baby came on a warm April evening as the sun was setting over the New Mexico landscape. Kate's labor started in the afternoon, and by the time Dr. Morrison arrived, it was well underway. Owen waited downstairs with Thomas, both of them pacing nervously as they listened to the sounds from above. "Is Aunt Kate going to be all right?" Thomas asked, his face pale with worry. "She's going to be fine," Owen assured him, though his own heart was racing with fear. He had seen animals give birth countless times, but this was different. This was Kate, his beloved wife, in pain and danger. The hours dragged on. Owen made coffee and toast that neither he nor Thomas could eat. They sat at the kitchen table, listening to every creak of the floorboards above, every muffled voice. Just when Owen thought he couldn't take the waiting anymore, he heard it, the thin, angry wail of a newborn baby. Dr. Morrison appeared at the top of the stairs, tired but smiling. "Congratulations, Nichols. You have a son. And your wife did beautifully. She's tired but healthy." Owen took the stairs 3 at a time, Thomas right behind him. They burst into the bedroom to find Kate propped up against pillows, holding a small bundle wrapped in a white blanket. Her face was pale and drawn with exhaustion, but she was smiling and her eyes were full of wonder. "Come meet your son," she said softly. Owen approached slowly, almost reverently, and looked down at the baby in Kate's arms. He was tiny and red-faced, with a shock of dark hair and eyes that were trying to focus on the world around him. Owen felt his throat tighten with emotion. "He's perfect," Owen whispered. "You want to hold him?" Kate asked. With shaking hands, Owen took his son, cradling the infant against his chest. The baby made a small sound, and Owen felt something in his heart expand, a love so fierce and immediate it took his breath away. This was his child, his and Kate's, a new life they had created together. "What should we name him?" Kate asked. They had discussed names but hadn't decided on anything definite. Owen looked down at his son, thinking about his brother, about legacy and love and hope. "What about James?" he suggested. "James Owen Nichols, after my brother." Kate's eyes filled with tears. "That's perfect. Hello, James. Welcome to the world, little one." Thomas crowded close, standing on tiptoe to see better. "He's so small. Can I hold him?" Owen carefully transferred the baby to Thomas's arms, showing him how to support the head. Thomas stared down at his new brother with awe and immediate devotion. "I'm going to teach him everything," Thomas declared. "How to ride and rope and take care of the ranch. I'll be the best big brother ever." "I know you will," Kate said, reaching out to squeeze Thomas's arm. "Doctor." Morrison left after checking on Kate one more time and giving Owen instructions for her care. Alone with his family, Owen sat on the edge of the bed, one arm around Kate and the other around Thomas, watching baby James sleep. "We did it," Kate said softly. "We made a family." "We did," Owen agreed, kissing her temple. "And I love every member of it more than I can say." That night, after Thomas had reluctantly gone to bed and the baby was sleeping in his new cradle, Owen held Kate close and thought about how far he had come. From a drifting cowboy with nothing but grief and emptiness, to a husband and father with a home and purpose and love beyond measure. "I believed you would come someday," Kate murmured, half asleep. "I always believed." "And I did," Owen replied. "I came and I'm never leaving. This is my home." "You're my home." The years that followed were full and rich. They had 2 more children, a daughter named Rebecca after Kate's sister, and another son they called Samuel after Thomas's father. The ranch grew and prospered, becoming one of the most successful operations in the area. Thomas grew into a fine young man, eventually taking over much of the day-to-day work and proving to have his father's talent for ranching. Owen and Kate's love never dimmed. If anything, it grew stronger with each passing year, tested by hardships and celebrated in joys. They weathered droughts and harsh winters, illnesses and accidents, the normal trials of life on the frontier. Through it all, they held fast to each other and to the family they had built. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Owen took Kate to the spot where he had first seen her, standing in that doorway with bullets flying around her. The town had changed in a decade, grown more civilized and prosperous, but the building was still there. "You remember?" Owen asked, his arm around her waist. "Of course I remember," Kate said, leaning into him. "I remember thinking, if I die today, at least I protected Thomas. And then you came out of nowhere, this stranger with kind eyes and a brave heart, and you saved us." "You saved me too," Owen said. "You gave me a reason to stop running. You gave me hope." Kate turned in his arms to face him, her hazel eyes still as bright and hopeful as they had been that first day. "I knew you would come. Even when it seemed impossible, even when everyone said I was foolish to wait, I knew someone would come for me. And you did." "I'll keep coming for you," Owen promised. "Every day for the rest of our lives. I'll choose you again and again, Kate." They kissed there in the street, not caring who saw. Two people who had found each other against all odds and built a life beyond their wildest dreams. Years later, when they were old and gray, sitting on the porch of the ranch that had become a legacy for their children and grandchildren, Kate would sometimes look at Owen with those same hopeful eyes and say, "I believed you would come someday." And Owen would take her hand, kiss it gently and reply, "And I did. I came and I stayed and I loved you every day. That's what real love does. It shows up and it stays." Their story became part of Deming's history, told and retold as an example of true love and second chances. The cowboy who had been drifting and the widow who had been waiting, brought together by fate and gunfire, building a love that lasted a lifetime. Thomas took over the ranch when Owen and Kate grew too old to manage it, running it with the same care and dedication his uncle had taught him. Rebecca became a teacher in Deming, while Samuel followed in his father's footsteps, becoming a skilled horseman and rancher. All three of them carried forward the values Owen and Kate had instilled: hard work and honesty, faith and hope, love and loyalty. On a cool evening in autumn, 50 years after that first meeting in the dusty street, Owen and Kate sat together on their porch, hands clasped, watching the sun set over the land they loved. They were both in their 70s now, bodies worn by years of labor but spirits still strong. "Do you have any regrets?" Kate asked, her voice soft with age. Owen considered the question seriously. He thought about the years of drifting, the grief over his brother, all the what-ifs and might-have-beens. Then he looked at Kate, at the face he knew better than his own, lined with age but beautiful to him still. "Not a single one," he said firmly. "Every moment, every choice, every hardship led me to you. How could I regret any of it?" Kate smiled, the same smile that had captured his heart decades ago. "Good, because I don't either. This life, this love, our family, it's been everything I hoped for and more." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out one by one. Around them, the ranch hummed with life, grandchildren playing in the yard, the sounds of cattle lowing in the distance, the familiar creaks and groans of the land settling for the night. "Thank you," Kate said eventually. "For what?" Owen asked, though he had asked this question 1,000 times over the years. "For coming that day, for saving us, for staying, for loving me so well." She squeezed his hand. "For being the answer to my prayers." "Thank you for waiting," Owen replied, as he always did. "For believing. For giving me a home and a purpose and a love worth living for." They kissed, soft and sweet, a kiss perfected by decades of practice. When they pulled apart, both had tears in their eyes. "I love you, Kate Nichols," Owen said. "I love you, Owen Nichols," Kate replied. "Today, tomorrow, and always." As they sat together in the gathering darkness, surrounded by the life they had built and the love they had nurtured, both knew they had been blessed beyond measure. Theirs was a love story for the ages, a testament to hope and faith, and the power of two hearts finding each other in the vast expanse of the wild frontier. The cowboy had married the bride with the hopeful eyes, and she had been right to believe. He had come and he had stayed, and they had lived happily ever after in the truest sense of the words. Their love had been tested and proven strong, their faith rewarded, their patience vindicated. In the end, theirs was a simple story. A man who needed a home found a woman who needed a partner. Together, they built something beautiful, something lasting, something that would echo through generations. They found love in the unlikely place, at an unlikely time, in unlikely circumstances. But they held on to it with both hands and never let go. That night, as they made their way slowly to bed, supporting each other with the ease of long practice, Kate paused to look at the photograph of baby James that sat on the mantel, now grown into a man with children of his own. "We did well, didn't we?" she asked. "We did," Owen agreed, his arm around her waist. "We did very well indeed." They had faced down outlaws and drought, illness and hardship, all the challenges the frontier could throw at them, and they had won, not through strength or luck, but through love. Through choosing each other every day, through commitment and communication, through faith that tomorrow would be better and the determination to make it so. As Owen helped Kate into bed and settled beside her, as he had every night for 50 years, he sent up a silent prayer of gratitude. For the bullet that had brought him into Kate's life, for her hopeful eyes and believing heart, for Thomas and the children they had raised together, for the ranch and the land and the community they had helped build, for every moment, every breath, every heartbeat of the life they had shared. Kate nestled against his shoulder, her breathing already evening out into sleep. Owen kissed the top of her head and closed his eyes, content in the knowledge that he had lived a good life, a life of purpose and meaning and love. The cowboy had come when the bride needed him most, and she had been waiting with hope in her heart. Together, they had written a love story that would live on long after they were gone, told around fires and dinner tables, an inspiration to anyone who had ever doubted that true love existed. And somewhere in the vast New Mexico night, under the same stars that had witnessed their first kiss and every kiss since, their love story continued, eternal and unbreakable, a beacon of hope for all who came after. The end.